I think Hannah Arendt kind of had a complicated relationship to love. Um, she kind of derails in some ways against love as a political force, but at the same time has these writings about home that are really interesting to me. But yeah, in that project, I was looking at how we can use love as a frame towards climate action. And there are a lot of climate activists like Greta Thunberg, is that her? Yeah, that use love in their own climate activism. And so I definitely think there is a place for love. But one of the things that I was really contending with is I think a lot of activism um, is also about anger and um, how do we deal with kind of this bubbling sense of there's something wrong and we need to do something about it. And I think that that's not inherently antithetical to love. I think love can be angry, and so I think thinking about these kind of two emotions in tandem rather than antithetical is really important for when we think about climate activism and love. But yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of ways that like climate activists can use love. And I think in that essay, I was also like looking at Extinction Rebellion, which they do a lot of interesting like protests around art, and they deface things and kind of trying to contend with, is this a form of love, or like what do these kind of more complicated climate protests, what do they say about love, and what is really happening there? And so those are questions that I'm still kind of contending with. But yeah, I think um, you know, love is really complicated. It can be angry. It can be obviously confusing. It can be warm and fuzzy, but it's not always that. I think love is hard, and I think our practices of even loving each other on an individual level are hard. Like it takes effort to love someone, and I think that's kind of similarly with our love for the environment. It should take effort, and we should be working on the ground. We should be protesting, and we should be practicing not only individual love, but this kind of complicated love for the environment. And whether that kind of comes out in more extreme forms of activism like Extinction Rebellion, or it comes out in other ways like eating as a form of rebellion. I think there are a lot of ways that we can bring in love, and kind of try and complicate what love means to us. Because yeah, I think in a lot of religious traditions, love is thrown out and compassion is thrown out. But what does that actually mean? And I think each of us in our own individual practice has to contend with what does that mean for us. But I think bringing love into conversations of climate activism is a start.